Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today will be a hero spotlight for Iron Man. Iron Man is a hero that got a lot better since his release, and he was pretty good on release. He was the best of the core heroes. But he did have this weakness that he took a while to get set up, and while he was getting set up, he was pretty bad. He was really, on release, he was meant to be played in a team, and your teammates would give you time to set up, and then you would contribute to the late game. Well, with the addition of electrostatic armor, energy barrier, to a lesser extent, force field, and then also plasma pistol, these cards help him get set up a lot faster and make him very viable and indeed quite good in solo play, though he does still have the caveat that he takes 2 turns to get set up, and if you flip on turn 1, generally your turn 2 is pretty rough. And if you don't flip on turn 1 and just stay in alter ego, that doesn't work for every quest. Some quests really prohibit you from doing that by basically guaranteeing that you're going to advance to phase 2 or even phase 3 if you don't flip on turn 1 in solo play. But Iron Man is quite good, and we'll take a look at his games and see how good he is. First game up is going to be Red Skull on expert difficulty. Here we go. So typically my strategy with Protection Iron Man, or with Iron Man in general, is not to flip on turn 1 and wait until turn 2 and then just try to catch up on the board after that. I've seen some opinions that Iron Man isn't very good, and I've seen some opinions that he is good. And I would say both of those opinions can be correct depending on the scenario that you're playing against. He's interesting in that some scenarios Iron Man is very, very strong against, and some scenarios he's not that good against. And the reason is because of his weak early game and very strong late game. So if the scenario gives you time to set up, then Iron Man is very, very strong and has a higher ceiling than almost any other hero in the game. But if he doesn't have time to set up and the scenario comes at you hard from the get-go, then Iron Man really doesn't do very well. So we're going to get out a turn 1 force field generator, electrostatic armor, and Iron Man's helmet, and then draw 6 and stay in hero alter ego form. So the villain gets his 1 threat, and he reveals a side scheme, and it's going to be the Sleeper Awakened, so that's a rough one to get right off the bat. And Red Skull is going to scheme for 3, and he gets a tough status card and another boost card. Okay, so he just schemes for 3, and the Sleeper's going to scheme for 1 as well, though I may have forgotten. Nope, there it goes. Alright, so we got Bitter Rival for our first encounter card, exhaust the character for each side scheme, and then Red Skull's right hook, which is going to give him Retaliate. That's fine. We're not going to be attacking Red Skull for a while until we get the board under control. So we use Futurist, and then we're going to get out Arc Reactor and Mark V armor. And now we got a hand size of 6, decent HP, force field generator. We're going to flip, we're going to thwart, and remove the red house. Going to put the side scheme discard pile next to the side scheme deck. And we'll just go ahead and draw 6. Repurpose is a card that I liked a lot more in theory than in practice. In practice, it's hard to make it work on high difficulty scenarios and could easily be replaced in this deck. So Red Skull's attacking, takes out the entire force field generator in one go, but the Retaliate from the electrostatic armor takes out his toughness. The Sleeper is going to attack for 3, which takes out the Sleeper's toughness, and then we got 2 encounter cards. We got another attack from Red Skull. for 3, and a damage from the electrostatic armor, and then another attack. It's just going to drop Iron Man down to 4 health. Electrostatic armor is going to do a lot of work in this one. I don't play a lot of allies in this quest. Rely on the force field generator and the energy barrier to block damage. It's mostly because I just don't think the leadership allies are that good. Or not the leadership allies, sorry, the protection allies. So, getting the board under control, though the sleeper is still a problem. New side quest, Prison Camps, which is a good one for the player. When defeated, it brings an ally into play from the deck. So, Force Field Generator drops by 5. Sleeper is going to deal 1 to the Force Field Generator and 2 to the Energy Barrier. And we'll deal that damage back to the sleeper along with 1 damage from the electrostatic armor. And then we got a Hydrojet Trooper quick striking for 2. The amount of cycle and the amount of cards that are going to be removed from the deck because they get played and they stay on the board, we're going to be drawing a force field generator or an energy barrier pretty much every round. So we use the plasma pistol to finish off the sleeper. The plasma pistol is not an attack. It doesn't proc retaliate, but the sleeper would have died on that attack anyway, so it doesn't matter. And we'll get rid of the prison camps so that we can bring an ally into play. Probably Nick Fury, which is the highest value ally that I have. Just reminding myself which allies that I play. War Machine's really not a very good hero-specific ally for Iron Man. Draw 3 with Nick Fury. There's Moon Girl. Gotta be an alter ego to play Moon Girl. So Iron Man isn't a genius when he's on his Iron Man side, only when he's on Tony Stark's side. And we'll use Nick Fury to take out the Hydrojet Trooper, and so we got the board under control now. Side quests are dealt with. The threat is manageable. The only area we're hurting is Iron Man's health. I think I forgot to add 1 health for the rocket boots. And Professor X is a card I like for Iron Man. If you draw it early, it can give you the extra turn you need to set up. Much easier than you would otherwise be able to. So Red Skull gets another attack, which is going to go on the Force Field Generator and deals him 1 damage. And then we got 2 encounter cards this round due to having cycled through the deck. An extra attack, which is going to be for 1, 2, and a toughness and another boost. So attack is for 3, so that's going to go against the Force Field Generator. If I had a repurpose, this would actually be a good spot to use it. The absolute best case scenario spot to use repurpose is with 1 damage remaining on the Force Field Generator. Rarely happens that way that you'd be able to do that though, because the Force Field Generator is a forced interrupt. Not optional. So we get the Professor, get a Confuse on Red Skull, and we'll get Hydra Patrol dealt with, which brings a Hydra minion into play. Get out a plasma pistol. Use the plasma pistols to take out the Hydra regular, and then we'll just thwart for 4. So we're in pretty good shape here. Can flip to alter ego, use futurist, grab a power in all of us. Actually can't do that because plasma pistol is restricted to 2. So I would have actually needed to hold those in hand and not draw a Stark Tower Repulsor Blast, but that's not really going to affect much because I don't use any of those cards for anything but resources. So we're discarding to see how many different resource types we draw, and for each resource type, 1 threat gets added to the side scheme. Remove the Confuse and 1 encounter card, Hydra Flame Soldier. So at this point, victory is pretty much assured. With the full board, the stabilized board. Probably should have taken Repurpose there with the 1 damage left on the force field generator. Repurpose could have done some work. Attack for 8 I could have done. But I wasn't in any real big hurry here. So if I'd played the plasma pistol correctly, because you can only have 2 of them out at a time, that would have probably delayed me by a little bit, but no problem. I'm not sure why I added 2 threat there instead of 1. Oh no, I just added 1. Okay. And the final side scheme in the side scheme deck is Censor the Past. So we got an attack, which is going to take out one of the force field generators. And a Hydra Exo Soldier. You could make a case for using Repurpose with a plasma pistol. Wouldn't be bad. Nothing exceptional, but wouldn't be bad. Certainly want to get out another energy barrier. I want to get out. So I'm gonna deal with that retaliate armor on Red Skull. And we'll get out powered gauntlets. Deal with Censor the Past. Get to choose 3 cards in the discard pile, shuffle them in the deck. Or just choose Nick Fury and 2 resource cards. With my deck only having 1 card in it, that'll guarantee that I draw Nick Fury and the 2 resource cards. And then I can play them next round. So deal 2 damage. Not really sure about that. Maybe the damage should have gone on the Hydra Exo Soldier instead. Now I'm debating where the damage should actually go. I don't have an energy barrier, so it's not like I can use the boss attack to kill the Hydra Exo Soldier before it could attack. And it's not going to die to electrostatic armor in any case. So we get the side scheme deck shuffled up. The sleeper gets removed from the game when it is completed. And the side scheme is going to be the red house. we got 2 encounter cards. It's going to be Infinite Power. Red Skull gets a tough status card, then he attacks. Ouch. So another attack comes, I'll die here. Caught off guard, we'll get rid of the plasma pistol. So Nick Fury draws 3. We'll get out probably both energy barriers, I would think. Well, now I don't have enough resources for both. So I'm going to reconsider how I want to play this now. Get out Pepper. Well, I could use Pepper to go airborne. Use Nick Fury and a plasma pistol to deal with the Exo Soldier. I'll use Pepper to go airborne. And start dealing some damage. However, I'm realizing at this point I'm at low HP and I don't have any barriers, so a 2 attack turn from the boss would kill me. So I flip, I use the Futurist and I keep Moon Girl. A high priority play when I'm in alter ego mode. Sense of the Past. Red Skull Schemes. And then we got Twisted Reality, so that brings in an additional encounter card when we defeat the side quest. We use Futurist. 2 power protections and Stark Tower to play Moon Girl and draw 3. Well, we'll just play the 2 energy barriers. So now I'm gonna take it back and redo the order in which I paid for things so that a power in all of us is on top, and then I can use it to go airborne with pepper pots. Push Red Skull into phase stage 3. Rid of Sense of the Past, but I forget to shuffle the 3 cards into my deck. Whoops. Could have gotten another easy play of Nick Fury. So we got at least 3 encounter cards coming. Having cycled through the deck again. Got Prison Camps, that's good for us. Attack on Moon Girl. 4 encounter cards. Shadow of the Past. Iron Man's Nemesis really isn't that bad. It's a pretty mild one. Only 4 health. Master Strategist. Not that bad. Master Strategist. Not that bad. Hydra Flame Soldier. Okay. Pretty mild turn in terms of 4 encounter card. As far as 4 encounter card turns go. So I have a Repulsor Blast and a Supersonic Punch in hand, so I can start thinking about, do I have lethal damage here? 8 from the Supersonic Punch, 2 from each powered gauntlet would be 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 from the Arc Reactor, 1 from Iron Man would be 13, 14. So I just need 5 damage from the Repulsor Blast. So I'm going to do that first and see if I get it. If I didn't, I'd probably play Force Field Generator, but I get 1, 2, 3, 4 lightning resources, so that's 9 damage, and that's gonna end the game. But I do need a way to go airborne here, so I'll use War Machine to go airborne, then use the resource card to use Supersonic Punch, and that's going to end the game. So that turned into a pretty long game, but is a victory against Red Skull on Expert. Not an easy scenario. So you can see both the strength and the weaknesses of Iron Man in this game. He draws 7 cards, that's his primary strength. The weakness is, well, honestly, protection just doesn't cycle as well as leadership. It's a weaker aspect when used this way, which is like, we're not trying to use protection cards, we're not trying to defend and take no damage. Because Iron Man with his 1 defense really isn't very good at that. We're just trying to get his upgrades out quickly, draw 7 cards, and use Force Field Generator and Energy Barrier to tank damage while getting the boss down, and that works pretty well. It's good enough to get Iron Man into the upper A tier. But because he struggles early against certain scenarios, he's not going to be an S tier hero. But let's take a look at the next scenario, which will be Crossbones on Expert on Heroic 1 difficulty. Iron Man had no trouble with Rhino on Heroic 1 or Absorbing Man on Heroic 1. Crossbones on Heroic 1 is a punishing scenario if you stay in Alter Ego early, and so we'll get a chance to see how Iron Man does against a scenario where you really get punished for not being strong early. So we'll get Nick Fury out right away and draw 3. We could do an early Professor X play and stop Crossbones from scheming if I want to stay in Alter Ego. But I may just opt to play the... No, I'm going to get out the Professor. Confuse, and that gives me an extra turn to set up. Though at the expense of not doing much this round. So we'll just go ahead and draw 6. We got 1 threat, remove the Confuse, 2 encounter cards. Hard as Nails, that's a toughness card. And Hydra Flame Soldier, and then Professor and Nick Fury are going to leave at the end of the round. So we can do a Moon Girl play here, except that I don't have any science resources, so Moon Girl is going to be pretty bad and isn't going to get played in this spot. So we got strong defenses. We can go ahead and flip here. Be drawing 5 at least. And gonna remove the toughness from the boss as opposed to doing 1 damage to the Hydra Flame Soldier. Now I reconsider and think, no, 1 damage to the Hydra Flame Soldier. There's the Arc Reactor. It's a very important card. So first the Machine Gun for 3. And then Crossbones attack for 2. 3, 4. Actually, the Force Field Generator is a forced interrupt, so I believe that should happen first, though I'm not sure about that. So it's possible I needed to take 1 more damage there, but the end result would be the same. Except the energy barrier would still be out with like 2 counters, I think. Or 1 counter, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, the overall end result I don't think would be much different, but it is important to note that the Force Field Generator is a forced interrupt, and that should happen before interrupts. So we're not quite set up yet. We're still at 5 hand size. That's not that good. But we've prevented Crossbones from getting past phase 1, which is quite good. But he's going to this round. Gets another experimental weapon, energy shield. That's the worst one. And then another Hydra Flame Soldier and an Assault, which does nothing because we're an alter ego. Gang up, same situation. Weapon Master, the villain schemes. For 1, 2, 3. And surges into a hard as nails. So we'll use Futurist. Probably grab the gray resource. And get out Plasma Pistol, Rocket Boots, and Mark V Helmet. Hang on to Mark V Armor for the time being. I don't know if I've added the hit points to Tony Stark or not for the Rocket Boots. Now the setup's pretty good. Thinking about whether I want to go airborne here. If I go airborne, I could kill the Hydra Flame Soldier. I decide no. I'll leave him on the table. He discards a support if you take an undefended attack from him, but I don't have any supports on the table. They're all upgrades. So there goes the machine gun. Powered Gauntlets is going to discard a card from my hand. And the Electrostatic Armor takes out the Toughness. Hydra Flame Soldier will deal 1 damage and then die to the Electrostatic Armor. Just checking to make sure these are all upgrades, no supports. And we got 3 encounter cards coming. Gotta discard 2 cards and take damage for the boost icons. It's 1. Just 1. Not bad at all. That could have killed me there. Got the wrong combination of cards. And now we're going over to Tony Stark for business problems. That's not that bad, really. So we can use Futurist. And there's Moon Girl. But unfortunately, well, I have 2 science resources, so you could make a good argument for keeping Moon Girl. But I did want to use Force Field Generator, so didn't really want to use Power Protection to pay for Moon Girl. We get Mark V Armor, get the +6 hit points. I don't know if I ever remember to give the +2. There I give the +2. So I did finally remember to give the +2 hit points for Rocket Boots. And we'll get a damage, we'll get the threat under control. I decide I'll leave 1 threat on the quest and use the arc reactor for another basic attack. And we'll draw 7, so not really worried about the outcome of this one at this point. My HP is strong. I got my force field up. It's just a matter of time. And there the Electrostatic Armor takes out the minion. And we got 2 encounter cards. It's going to be Assault. That's going to get through. And it's going to discard a card from my hand. I forgot to mark off the Electrostatic Armor damage there on the boss. Small mistake that hurts me. And then a Caught Off Guard and a Crossbones Assault, which I'll probably just try to ignore. So I'm going to need to deal with that Retaliate, that energy shield. Takes a lightning and science resource though, and I actually don't have a science resource in my hand. So just go shields up. And Crossbones is going to activate when that side scheme is defeated. So he's going to get this attack and then a quick, and then another attack with no boost card. Force field generator holds. So just grinding the boss down. Here we got a science resource, so we can get rid of the energy shield next round. And Crossbones attacks. Goodbye force field generator. Two encounter cards. He schemes, always scary. And exhausts my identity. Okay. Well, getting rid of the energy shield is a top priority. Requires a lightning and a science resource. So there it goes. Probably go airborne this round. Maybe repulsor blast. Not a very good hand at all. Gonna get rid of the other attachment as well with a science and a lightning resource, since I don't really have a use for the resources in my hand anyway. Now I'm considering whether it was better to do that or to go airborne. So I'll use a different lightning resource instead of the power of protection. Then I can use the power of protection to go airborne. And just go ahead and get some threat off of that. I don't know what I'm reconsidering here. Yeah, okay. Now everything's correct. And gonna repulsor blast, but that's just gonna go on the Hydra soldiers, so damage is gonna go to waste. Oh, the Hydra soldier has guard. It should have gone on him. It isn't gonna impact the game, except it would have delayed it by one round. I don't know why I remembered the Hydra soldier at first and then didn't remember him, but brain just took a vacation there. Actually would have saved me some damage, but we wouldn't be in phase 3 yet. So that mistake actually may have just hurt me more than helped me. Okay, well, boss is going to do his best, but a full setup Iron Man is not going to have any issues really, barring some extremely unlikely circumstance. Still, these games with Protection Iron Man tend to be kind of long because, well, we have to play force field generators and energy shields every round in order to tank the damage, since we're not playing many allies. You could make a case for a version of this deck that runs more allies. The issue is protection allies just aren't that good. Multiple man can be good in Protection Iron Man, but it takes up 3 card slots. So we get a confuse on the boss, all the threats gone. Probably we'll flip to Alter Ego here. And just set up a winning turn next round. Shouldn't have been able to do damage to the boss there. Should have gone on Crossbones' armor. So we should be plus 2 HP and 2 tokens on the Crossbones armor. So we've gone through the encounter deck once. Shadow of the Past. Can I deal 21 damage or 18 damage next round? Probably. It's probably the last turn. I've got 8, so I need 10 more. 4 with the Powered Gauntlet, 6 more. Nick Fury can do 6, so yeah, next round, as long as we live this round, next round is going to be the final turn. Though it's certainly possible that if I'd remembered the guard on the Hydra minion, that it would take 2 more turns, but I kind of doubt it because I think I'm going to have overkill here. Oh yeah. I got a Repulsor Blast, I got Supersonic Punch, I got Nick Fury. So whether I had remembered the Hydra minion's guard or not, this was going to be the final turn. Should have probably used an Iron Man basic attack for that, would have saved me 1 damage. So I end up with 1 damage in overkill. If I had needed extra damage, I could have potentially done something like Nick Fury to draw 3 cards and grab a Repulsor Blast. Or play the Repulsor Blast instead. And also I wasted a damage. It's possible that if I had remembered the guard when I was in stage 2, that it would have delayed the game by 1 extra round. Because I would have had to, if I didn't think the game was going to end, I would have had to use damage to take out those minions and try to get some shields up, but then I would have just been over next round. But if I'd drawn 3 with Nick Fury, if I'd needed extra damage and played a Repulsor Blast instead, there's a lot of lightning resources in this deck. Most likely that would have been a better line to take. I didn't take it because I didn't think I'd need it, but it was open. Anyway, so a good way to evaluate what happens with Iron Man when you're facing a low threat threshold quest. This scenario can be a struggle for Iron Man when you don't draw Professor X on turn 1. He helps a lot in scenarios like that, but he has only 1 card in 4 to you, and you can't really rely on drawing him each time. The final scenario, but once Iron Man gets set up, he has no trouble against virtually anybody once he's set up and stabilized. The issue is just getting set up and stabilized. That 7 hand size does work. The final scenario we're going to look at is Green Goblin Mutagen Formula on Heroic 1 difficulty. Mutagen Formula is kind of the next level up after the introductory Heroic 1 quests of Wrecking Crew, Risky Business, Tower Defense from Mad Titan Shadow. Those are kind of the gimmicky Heroic ones, and then the ones that I test against first are typically Rhino, Absorbing Man, and Crossbones. And after that, they ramp up in difficulty, and Green Goblin Mutagen Formula is a major barrier. Comes out of the gate with guns blazing, and we'll see how Iron Man does here. So we're going to Futurist, and then get an energy barrier, get a plasma pistol, get a powered gauntlet. Deal 1. No, we can't deal any damage. That's a hero action, so it shouldn't be possible there. I don't know why I forgot that. And we'll draw 6. We got Moon Girl, and a way to pay for Moon Girl with 3 science resources, so that's very good. But the Green Goblin is able to advance the scenario to stage 2 immediately. And that's, in order for that not to happen, if you stay in Alter Ego on turn 1, you have to get a boost card of 0. And if you flip on turn 1, then you've got to deal with having a hand size of just 4. And it's real hard to get anywhere with that. Especially since we'd probably have to use one of the upgrades, the energy shield, just to stay alive. So we'll play Moon Girl, draw 3. And then Futurist. Energy Barrier. Mark V Helmet. And could make a case for the other powered gauntlets there, but I'd already thrown away one Rocket Boots. I didn't want to wait for a second time through the deck to get another Rocket Boots. It's very hard to stabilize the board against Green Goblin if he gets any kind of head start because he brings so many minions into play. There is one. Energy barriers are very helpful for clearing minions. And the counter cards are going to be Goblin Glider and Goblin Knight. That's a tough card. Well, we're in trouble threat-wise. I'm not sure that was the correct play there. I think I have a better chance to win if I Repulsor Blast the Goblin Knight. You can get kind of stuck in building the suit mode early and not see better plays. And I think in that case I'd have a better shot to win if I Repulsor Blast Goblin Knight, though if I missed with it, then I probably would just straight up lose. That may have been what I was thinking, and to hit with it I would need 3 energy resources. Probably the odds would have been against it. But nonetheless, with this being a difficult scenario, I probably should have gone for it. So we get a Death from Above. That's going to be an attack with +2 attack. No shield, so that just goes straight through. That should add 1 threat to the main scheme, which I forgot about. And then another minion. So I've forgotten some small things here which would have hurt me. Haven't really managed to do anything approximating stabilizing the board yet. And probably, again, should have Repulsor Blast the Goblin Knight at this point. I am going to go Airborne here. And go 2, 4, 5 and take out the Goblin Knight. So it's not going terribly. Extra encounter card. Phase 2 of this scenario is tough. It forces you to use a lot more resources thwarting. It'd be nice to be able to hold Green Goblin in Phase 1, but you can't do that really with the staying in Alter Ego strategy. At least it's not likely. You gotta get lucky. You got Goblin Soldier, Overconfidence. That's gonna be another attack. These attacks should be adding damage or a threat to the main quest, which I just seem to have forgotten about entirely in this game. And then another attack. And we got 4 Goblin Soldiers. Each of those deals damage when you defeat them. And so I can't defeat any of them right now without healing. I can't flip to Alter Ego and heal. I can't flip to Alter Ego at all, or he'll definitely threat me out. So, yeah, this one is over. think I should have Repulsor Blast more and just hope for the best. Hope for enough damage from the Repulsor Blasts to help clear some of these dudes out. And here I'm realizing, oh, I actually can't take damage and I can't not take damage, and so I'm just done. But we'll go one more attempt and see if it goes any better, maybe with better play or with better luck. But really, I think that Iron Man just doesn't have the tools to, well, against this particular scenario, if you get behind, it's hard to stabilize. And Iron Man can certainly compete with Green Goblin. If he could start with a full build or something like that, it'd be fine on Heroic 1. But Green Goblin just gets off to too fast a start, and Iron Man struggles to catch up for the rest of the game. Though I do think it's possible to defeat this scenario on Heroic 1 difficulty. Just needs some luck. But there are a lot of scenarios that Iron Man does really well against, in particular on Expert difficulty. I used Protection Iron Man against the entire Mad Titan Shadow campaign, or was it, it was Mad Titan Shadow, and he did very, very well there. He really just straight up demolished Mad Titan Shadow. All of those scenarios are very forgiving early, and so Iron Man was in his element there and able to just crush that campaign. Here we get the monster early, probably just a straight up loss. Anytime you get the monster or the Goblin Knight early, you're in trouble, and often I'll just reset at that point. I have not used repurpose in any of these plays. There's maybe one opportunity where I could have. So I get the threat under control. I realize I forgot the stun, which means I can only actually thwart for 2, or for 3, because I had to use one of his actions to remove a stun. And then we got pumpkin bombs dealing damage. We've got lots of minions. Goblin reinforcements. That's a tough card when you got a bunch of minions on the table. I do have a Moon Girl play if I could flip to Alter Ego, but I can't. And she can't be played while we're in hero form. Thinking about Supersonic Punch, but it's not that good when you're not aerial because it's only 4 damage. Repulsor Blast has a higher ceiling, but it's very luck based. So you can have Force Field Generator, just alter the order in which I play cards there so Pepper Potts can copy the Genius. So we're in Alter Ego because I couldn't survive the attack from the Green Goblin and all of his minions. But I couldn't survive being threaded out either, so Can this scenario be beaten with a decent draw by Iron Man, Protection Iron Man? Heroic 1, Green Goblin? You need a really good draw. My assessment of Iron Man is that he is high A tier, maybe a little bit better than Spider-Man, and I liked Spider-Man, but he's not anything close to Star-Lord's level. And the reason, well, Protection just isn't as good as Leadership. If there were tech upgrades in the Leadership aspect, there are, but they go on minions, and I've tried a minion tech upgrade Iron Man deck, and it isn't reliable, because you have to reliably draw a couple of card combo early in the game instead of just one card. And it does okay, but I struggled to even get past Rhino on Heroic 1 with Leadership Iron Man. So he really needs to go Protection to be viable. But Protection, it just isn't as good as Leadership because none of the cards really cycle themselves, and that's really what we want from our aspect cards, is for them to cycle themselves with card draw so that we get more plays of our hero cards. And we don't get that from Protection. We get the additional tech upgrades, and it's good. It's still very good. It's enough to get Iron Man to high A tier, in my opinion. And for more examples of what he can do, there is a playthrough of the Mad Titan Shadow campaign with Protection Iron Man on my channel in the Progression series, and he did very well there. He crushed it. And I was of the opinion after that he was going to be an S tier hero. I don't think he is. I think he's high A tier. It could be he's going to be in the S tier. We'll see where the other heroes land. But my opinion as of right now is that he's going to end up in the high A tier. Very good, and the benefit to him is that, well, everybody has him because everybody has a core set. And if we take a quick look at the deck again, we note that only 7 packs are required. The Hulk pack, which has... what comes from the Hulk pack? Well, Repurposes from SPDR, Moon Girl from Nova, Professor X from Mutant Genesis, Electrostatic Armor from the Hulk pack, Energy Barrier from Ms. Marvel, Force Field from SPDR. The deck that I used in the Mad Titan Shadow campaign didn't have Repurpose or a Force Field Generator, and it did just fine. Got Plasma Pistol from Venom, but this is a relatively cheap deck to build. And it's very strong. Very cost efficient in terms of real money dollars to content that it can clear. And that's very good. In fact, for players that are new to the game, if you went from buying the core set to building out Protection Iron Man, that would be a very reasonable path. Now, you're not going to be defeating a lot of Heroic 1 content, though you can get past five or so scenarios on Heroic 1, maybe a little more. And you're not going to be getting past Venom Goblin, Magneto, Ronin on Expert without a lot of difficulty. But there are things you can do with Protection Iron Man, like take on the Mad Titan Shadow campaign on Expert difficulty. And relative to the costs spent to content you're able to clear is very good with Iron Man. And so he's going in the higher tier, and it's possible that with a good draw and with very, let's say, very experienced plays, very experienced player plus a very good draw could take on Heroic 1 Green Goblin. We'll continue to try, and if I do think that with more experience and with better draws that this can be downed with a reasonable win rate. I'm not real inclined to put playthroughs on the channel where it's like a 1 in 10 or less, because it gives the impression that a hero is stronger than they actually are, because I don't typically put the 9 failures up there as well. So hero has to be able to defeat content with a reasonable win rate before I'll put it up on the channel. But anyway, overall, a high A tier hero. And a much improved hero from his original release, and that itself is kind of rare. Not a A lot of heroes improve by a lot after their release, or at least after their release cycle. Typically, whatever you get after the release cycle of a hero is over is all you're ever going to get. But there are a few, like Iron Man and Spider-Man, who do improve significantly with more cards. So, anyway, thank you for watching.